What up? What up? Good morning. Good morning. Just give me 2 seconds here. I've almost got everything cooking. There we go. Rondell, Mary Cox, good to see you. Mary Cox, great seeing you in Vegas. Chipper, good to see you. Crypto Clay, as always, good to see you. 1970 legend. Brian, good to see you. Fire Marshal Build. Got the XRP price chart up here. Obviously had some pretty good movement over the weekend. Just one kind of big little spike up. Back to what I kind of like to call a bit of a safety zone here. Flipping back above some of these support levels, which is great to see. Had a little bit of a fall off and now just kind of recovering back to, for lack of a better term, just kind of a safe zone. So good to see that. Now this is on a more micro time frame. Still trying to reverse a lot of that previous direction. Trading fees a little laggy right now. Still trying to reverse some of that previous direction and kind of get out of here and start pushing back to those higher levels. But really good kind of some price movement over the weekend. Flipped things around a little bit and started putting us in a better position to start working our way higher. Murdoch, good to see you, man. I feel like it's been a while, Murdoch. Great to see you in the chat, brother. Guys, make sure to smash the like button if you haven't already. Appreciate everyone for coming in. Big week. We get that CPI data this week, which will be very interesting to see. We'll check Trueflation right now and make sure there's no unexpected surprises. I think me and Deefin were throwing around some numbers, and we both think we should be coming in a place where we're likely sub 2%. We should start reading some of this data down here. So we should be in a position where we're coming in maybe at like 1.819. And we're kind of should be starting to read this valley on the Trueflation data on the government data. So for those of you confused on what this means, the Trueflation data always leads the government data by quite a bit. So while the government data is still kind of reading back here in these high 2.3 numbers, Trueflation was already reading kind of low 1.7s. We're kind of past that point at the Trueflation data, but the government data should start reading some of this right now. So we should see a lot of this start flowing into the government data and hopefully lead to rate cuts. We already know that Trump wants rate cuts. A lot of people in the administration want rate cuts. Hopefully this will provide them the data to actually go ahead and do those rate cuts. So it doesn't look like any unexpected surprises there, which is great to see. Everything sort of looks on track and doing what we thought. I've been surprised we haven't seen the rate cuts already. I would have thought we would have gotten those much earlier, but it looks like they wanted to be sure that inflation had gone away prior to doing something like that, which makes sense. I'm just surprised a bit that they've waited this long. Roger, good to see you. Silver Days, good to see you. So we obviously had this nice little pump up. Curious what Bitcoin's doing this morning. Let's take a quick look. Oh, wow. Bitcoin's pumping. That's awesome. That's really good to see. Bitcoin up at 107. lot of talk this morning on government accumulation of Bitcoin, and it looks like that's brought a lot of momentum back into the market. Some good news we've got is it looks like the ETFs are starting to get pricing data, trading on the NASDAQ, I believe it was. Oh, whoops. Which is really good to see. Pricing data coming to the NASDAQ kind of confirms that the SEC is ready to approve some of these ETFs. So that's going to be a huge catalyst here in the next couple of days. I believe Polymart is now putting in at about a 95% chance there's going to be an XRP ETF. So it looks like the market's really starting to lean into that idea. Fire Dog, good to see you, man. Crypto View, good to see you. Yeah, it's always good to see Bitcoin leading the way because historically that's just been a really good indicator that the rest of the market is going to go. Eventually, I think we're going to get out of this trend where Bitcoin leads the way always, but it's clear that the market still doesn't really understand the difference between Bitcoin and a lot of these other cryptocurrencies. Trying to see if there's any very interesting news coming over the headways this morning. Matt Hogan of Bitwise says an XRP ETF is more likely than ever. So people are continuing to leaning into that narrative, which is great to see. Scotty, good to see you, man. Linda, great seeing you in Vegas as well. Great to see you. Not going to speak for Roger, but Roger was not in Vegas. Sailor buying more Bitcoin. There you go. Not a morning if Sailor is not buying Bitcoin. So I mean, impressive. And we'll see how it all ends up for him. I have my worries about MicroStrategy. Oh, this might be interesting. This is something not a lot of people know about. One of the reasons why a lot of people, can you go over the crypto agenda this week? This bill coming. Salute to you as always. I would be happy to, but it might be better if I do it tomorrow. I can't say I'm really fully caught up on the bill as it stands right now. I'll have to take a look at the bill and get a better look, or we could do it on the live stream. Guys, make sure to smash the like button. I do want to play for you something that I think will be interesting. One of the things a lot of people wonder is why a lot of these VCs have been anti-Ripple and XRP for a while, and it's actually pretty simple. It's just because on all these other projects, these VCs get a whole bunch of tokens locked up in the very early days, and therefore kind of just make a lot of money off getting an early allocation to the token. That didn't happen in the XRP case, and for that reason, a lot of these VCs didn't feel incentivized to get behind that project. Now, it doesn't mean anything in terms of the total value of the project. Doesn't mean anything in terms of the value that project is bringing. So, in my opinion, a lot of these VCs are kind of acting pretty stubborn. It's like, hey, we're not going to touch this unless we get an early allocation and we get a whole bunch of money for essentially supporting the project itself. But kind of Ripple always came from the conclusion, well, we don't really need you to support it. We're not going to give you a whole bunch of free tokens just because you're a VC. So to hear some VCs actually talking about it, I'm just curious to see where this discussion goes. Because apparently they're weighing in this video on Ripple's strategy. And I'm curious sort of how they rationalize their own thinking around it.
Switching gears to another company that has done a good job of penetrating mainstream, but is also a little controversial, is Ripple. Rob, you guys were, I think, shareholders of Hidden Road, which they sold to.
That's right.
I would love to hear your guys' take on the Ripple strategy. And if you think that they can build a dominant business just on the back of this like weird strategy of accumulating a massive treasury and maybe buying their way into a good business. I would love to.
Can I just interject and say that I hate talking about Rob's portfolio? I just want to make sure that that's clear, that this should not be a trend. The only thing worse
There's just too many of my portfolio companies that are doing well. I'm sorry, Diego.
Rob, you could just start copying Dragonfly's investments like that. Maybe
It's always a possibility, Diego. I promise.
Diego's like, I'm not having fun anymore.
No, so listen, I think to that point, Yano, I think absolutely, right? Like, I think there is no doubt that if you have a lot of capital, that you can buy yourself into an actual business, right? And like, it's hard. It's not easy. You have to be able to, pick the right businesses. You have to be able to integrate them. You have to have a good vision and understand where distribution comes from and value accrual comes from. But you can absolutely do it. And, I think if you talk to Brad today, like, they're really focused on RLUSD. They want to become a competitor in the stablecoin space. Hidden Road is a very, I think, savvy buy for them in terms of wanting to distribute RLUSD. It's a business that is very capital intensive, that it requires a lot of collateral, it requires a lot of debt capital. You end up actually distributing a lot to a lot of different counterparties. And so I expect we'll see billions of dollars of new RLUSD issued just through Hidden Road. Now, add in things like, they bought Medico. I know that they're looking at a lot of different type of businesses right now. Like, I expect that they'll be able to distribute their stablecoin through those businesses, and that all of a sudden we'll be talking about them as a major player, as a top 3 to 4 stablecoin issuer potentially, within the relatively near term.
You think Ripple could be you think Ripple in the relatively near term would be a top 3 stablecoin issuer?
I think that is their goal. I think it is certainly possible if they execute really well. I think they'll be a top 5 stablecoin issuer, probably almost certainly in the next, call it 24 to 36 months, if they are able to execute the things that they are saying that they are doing, the transactions that they've they've executed so far, and other ones that I think they'll probably continue to be pretty active. I think it's very possible that they essentially buy themselves into that business. And I'm a believer, and Diego might disagree with this, and Santi, now you might as well, but I'm a believer there will probably be like 5 to 7 stablecoin issuers that actually matter. I don't think it'll be that much less than that. I don't think it'll be 2 like it is today, but I also don't think it'll be 1,000. And so I expect that they will be one of those.
With that one answer, Rob just lost his Spicy Rob moniker. It was too politically correct. I'm sorry, Rob.
All right, go for it, Diego. Hit us.
I mean, in general, look, it is what it is. I think they have basically no chance at getting a stable coin to be successful. It's extremely hard to get in. There's anywhere from obviously like massive distribution advantages already, massive balance sheets. I mean, look at this IPO, right? I think just crossed $20 billion market cap, circled it just now, right? And so, I mean, the amount of money that they're against, not even Ripple has that much money. Yeah.
Well, if you look at their XRP, they do. They've got like $100 billion of XRP.
I was going to say,
they have to sell it. They have to sell it. The moment they start selling it, it's different, right? They have to sell it. Once they start selling those amounts into market,
do they have to sell it, or could they like do creative structures behind it?
They can do creative structures, but at the end of the day, it's just like it's sell pressure.
Oh, this is crazy. 110. No, I think though, just
Jeff
to be clear,
Jeff Dorman is crashing out right now, hard. I mean,
crashing.
Oh my God! You can just imagine staring at that all day and be like, "Fuck."
Just Santi, on your one question about like can they do creative structures with the XRP? I think there are ways to do it. I think it is tough. I think you probably can't use it as consideration. You have to somehow turn it into cash beforehand for like tax reasons. But their whole business for the last call it like 5 years has been actually just selling XRP. They have a defined amount that they can sell every quarter, and they put out a kind of a quarterly report. This is how much we actually sold. And they can continue to do that. And at the prices that XRP is, and it's continued to go up, like they can raise a lot of capital that way. But there's no reason they shouldn't be able to like borrow against it. There's no reason that they shouldn't be able to do like other things that provide cash. And plus, they have equity that they've actually continued to use in some of the transactions that they're doing, and has a secondary market that is in the billions of dollars. And so I don't know why they can't continue to buy things, and if they do a good job, fix that distribution. So
yeah, I agree with that, but there's a big hypothesis. If they continue doing a good job, they need to integrate, and I think some of the acquisitions already have, they have not.
Rob and Diogo, what is the biggest thing that you guys disagree on?
Do we disagree on anything?
Well, we just disagreed on this. So, yeah.
Well, I think we agree more than we disagree. You are now a stockholder, so you're no longer an objective. You're a very.
I don't own any Ripple stock, just to be clear.
Interesting. Always curious how like they can't seem to wrap their head around what Ripple actually does, and it always just goes back to the XRP distribution. It's like one of those things where I just think it's the only thing they can really wrap their head around. Like it never comes down to like what Ripple is doing and the strategy and kind of XRP's place in the entire ecosystem. It's always they're so worried about this distribution, but like every single token has a distribution. Most tokens just inflate the token supply. The only difference is there's no inflation in XRP. And a lot of that money just comes back to Ripple. So it's always so funny that they always come back to this distribution of XRP that they all seem to have such a big problem with. But the way the VCs work is like they're just Ripple in the equation. So when a VC gets involved in any project, they get a whole bunch of essentially pre-issued tokens, and then the VC just sells the tokens. So they do the same exact thing as what Ripple does with XRP, except Ripple's using the selling of that XRP to bolster the ecosystem, while the VCs are just kind of using it to cash out and make a profit. So to me, it always comes back sort of to this idea that they just want to be able to, they want to be involved. And I feel like if they were involved, then they wouldn't be so jaded towards it. I think they kind of feel snubbed by Ripple, thinking like, Ripple could go out and say, oh, we could do this on our own. Like, we don't need the VCs. And they were all sitting there like, oh, you need us. And now they're in this paradigm where Ripple's succeeding without the VCs, and they kind of see that as a threat to their business. But I think that's where a lot of because the VCs own a lot of the media and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's really a big reason why they've come at it so jaded. They're just like, wow, if people don't see us as a critical part in supporting these projects, right? Like, where do we stand? And because they weren't given any incentive to really promote it, they're kind of saying, oh, well, we never really have to touch this. See if there's any other interesting news going around. That was a great clip right there. It's so funny how it's changing too, because on a panel like that, it used to just be, oh, Ripple's a scam. Oh, never touch XRP. Now you can totally see that completely turning. And a lot of these people are now really flipping the narrative in terms of like how they look at Ripple and XRP and saying, well, whatever they need to tell themselves, right? A lot of them are writing on RLUSD and saying, oh, well, I understand that. But just the fact that they're flipping and they're getting rid of a lot of their preconceived kind of issues, I think shows a very, very different market. See what else we've got going on here. Want to make sure nothing's being missed. Honestly, a bit of a slow morning in terms of news. Trade talks between the US and China have begun. That's good to hear generally. Hopefully those come out pretty positive. Here's a note saying that Ripple has no competitors in the crypto space. I generally agree with that. I don't believe Ripple does have competitors in the cryptocurrency space. It's totally different than most other cryptocurrency networks. I absolutely agree. Just interesting to see that coming in an actual report. But yeah, it's really hard to find competition for kind of what Ripple's doing with XRP in the cryptocurrency space. Seems like everyone else has kind of taken this approach of like, let's just make a decentralized blockchain with smart contracts and we'll make a million different versions and we'll see which one sticks. So it's nice that XRP is not in that race of like, okay, let's just make another smart contract blockchain and see if people Pomp is pumping his bags on CNBC. Oh, I'm sure. Everyone else is like, let's just keep making these blockchains and hopefully one of them will stick. Ripple's one of the XRP is one of the only like differentiated blockchains that really is like built different. Do you know when the Stablecoin Act will be verified? I have no idea. I kind of stopped. You know, one of the things with these bills is like there's constantly like just another vote and then they get like comments and then things change last minute. And right now I'm kind of the opinion like I just need to see this thing actually go live and then I'll be happy to break it down. But until it goes live and until it gets over the finish line, it's like I just can't. Like you analyze the bill and then next thing you know, it's completely different. How do you get past this security? I'm going to hold 20K XRP for the next 10 years. Hopefully you'll be worth. Hey, I think that's a great strategy. I plan on holding a lot of XRP for the foreseeable future. It's one of the best ways, in my opinion, to invest. Like, so many people focus so much on like, hey, I get in here, get out here. But a lot of the best investments of all time, there was not necessarily an obvious place to get out. I mean, I know this isn't a no-brainer to a lot of people, but if we just take a look at something pretty simple, right? Let's do Apple for an example. We just go to a weekly chart of Apple. If you compare where we are in terms of cryptocurrency adoption, and where we were for internet adoption, you can make a pretty okay comparison. I think a lot of the metrics have us in terms of cryptocurrency adoption somewhere in this time frame, right? Anywhere between kind of 1995 and maybe 2005 at the latest. And you know, oh, my bad. A lot of people had us in this kind of thank you, Roger. Appreciate that. Thank you. A lot of people have us right now in this stage right here in this kind of either 1993 to 2004 era of the internet. And, you know, you could have made the argument, right? When was the right time to sell Apple? Now, you could have made it like, hey, I want to be able to sell this and then rebuy this and then sell this and then rebuy this. And you definitely could have made some percentages along the way, but that's not necessarily an easy strategy to pull off, right? So really the answer is like a lot of people who did the best, who just didn't get shaken themselves out, are the people sitting right now up here who just really never just kind of stood there on their bag, sat there and let the profits roll in. Since those early days of those internet days, we have gains on Apple of 104,000%. So always important to realize that markets switch up, right? If you took a look at the very, very early days of Apple, prior to that, you know, it's just a lot of sort of sideways trading. You could kind of draw like cycles on this a little bit. You could try to say, oh, well, you go up. Or you could try to say, oh, you go up, and then you have a big crash, and then we kind of went up, and then a crash, and then up, and then a crash. And you could get kind of try to make up these like imaginary cycles all over this thing, where then if you were here, you're like, all right, well, I've got to get out. And then if you were to just superimpose that moving forward, then maybe here was the time where you're like, all right, well, based off what happens before in the past, I should get out here because it's going to crash back down again, just like it has before in the past. But then what ended up happening was you kind of go into this new paradigm where then you miss out on a lot of what was yet to come. So you always just got to be careful of stuff like that. Eventually this market will change if it gets the adoption. I think we all think it's gonna. And I don't think a lot of people are really of the mindset of how early we are in crypto and how different it's going to be as the space matures. We're kind of in a very unique time here where things are very different than they will be in the future. And we're here pre-adoption. And to understand what pre-adoption looks like is very hard until we see what actual adoption looks like. I think we all know what the utility side will look like. I think we have a harder time wrapping our head around what that will mean for the price of the underlying tokens we're invested in. Happy Monday, Tracy. Good to see you. Guys, make sure to smash the like button. Close to 2,000 people. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all the support. See what else I can grab here. Oh yeah, I saw this. Take a look at this board of directors for RLUSD. This is one of the most stacked board of directors I've ever seen. Obviously Chris Larson, founder of Ripple, Sheila Bair, FDIC, part of the Treasury, senior vice president of New York Stock Exchange, chair of the CFTC, David Puth of Circle, R3, JP Morgan, Kenneth Montgomery, Federal Reserve of the Bank of Boston, also part of Fed Now, and Rajan, governor of the Reserve Bank of India, which just reconfirms the Ripple India connections, and chief economist at the IMF. So talk about a stacked board. It's so funny to me that people could look at a board like this and say, oh, well, this is something I don't want to be involved in. This company is a scam. And then meanwhile, a lot of the companies that these or projects that these people are invested in are like a bunch of 16-year-old devs with no board of directors, no experience, who just made a smart contract that now everyone thinks is decentralized. I decoded the ripples finally. The date is 10/25. All right, well, we'll see. We'll see. 10/25. Oh, of course. Big fan of Text XRP and wishing them a lot of success. So great board on Ripple's team, and I'm certain they're going to get a lot done with that kind of level of team. I mean, that's probably one of the best teams you can find in all of crypto. it's amazing that more attention isn't being put on that. And then kind of the other thing we talked about earlier, but here's the post. Crypto benchmarking coming to XRP, Solana, ADA, and XLM. So this is a big thing for the NASDAQ to support the pricing data for these ETFs to go live. So it's a bit of an infrastructure upgrade to the NASDAQ prior to these XRP ETFs trading. It just shows that the ball's moving forward here, right? They wouldn't be approving pricing data if they were going to be denying something like the XRP ETF. Also, if you can see on the screen, June 10 to 12 is Ripple Apex. I left it up there because I wanted a reminder of when it started. But yeah, June 10, 12. So tomorrow, Ripple Apex will start, and we'll be curious if we get any cool kind of news from Ripple Apex. Odds Judge Torres denies. I think low. I'm really not worried about the Judge Torres thing. I think Ripple and the SEC just need to follow the procedure that Judge Torres laid out. Thanks, Space LLC. Good to see you, man. Guys, smash the like button. Thank you, thank you, thank you for everyone doing that. Continuing to just see if there's any more news we've got to cover this morning. It looks like we're pretty up to speed on everything. I'll see if the chat's got any more last questions here. But it looks like we've covered most of it. Today is June 9th. There you go. Today is June 9th. Fake trial? Yeah, it feels a little bit like a fake trial at this point. I mean, I'm not worried in the slightest. As long as the SEC and Ripple are on the same side, I have zero concerns, and they are. What do I think will happen once the XRP ETF is confirmed? I think it's going to be very interesting to see if the inflow surprise to the upside or surprise to the downside. I think if they surprise to the upside, you're going to see a lot of bullish momentum in XRP. I think if you see them surprise to the downside, it really won't have much of an effect. But I do anticipate them having a lot of interest when they go live. If you just take a look at how much interest there is in XRP on Coinbase as kind of a United States-based cryptocurrency, I think you can easily extrapolate that there's going to be a ton of interest for the XRP ETFs. A lot of people look at XRP very differently than the rest of the cryptocurrency market, especially in the United States, because of that US nexus. Does anyone have any idea how much Ripple the company actually makes? No, I would love to know though. When I was in Vegas, someone asked me, hey, can you like talk about what Ripple's value actually is? And one of the things I said is I'd love to talk about what Ripple's value is or what they should be valued at. But the thing is it's almost impossible to tell because we just don't know much about what they make. And it will be very interesting when they do go public to be able to see a lot of that data. But right now we're just not privy to a lot of that data. So unfortunately, or for Ripple, fortunately, that's one of the advantages of being a private company, but it makes it so we can't really review any of that. So we don't really know. Bro, what's happening in LA? Abs, good to see you. I have no idea, man. Craziness, craziness, craziness. Yeah, no. Wild to see what's going on in the news, and that's capturing a lot of the major media headlines right now. So seems like that's the thing everyone's talking about. First MiCA compliant EU stablecoin integrated on the XRP ledger. And that's the Your Up token. Cool to see. I don't know much about it, but first EU MiCA compliant stablecoin issued on the XRP ledger. I've not often talked about this. I think stablecoins are the first killer use case for tokenization. And next up will be things like bonds and derivatives and other financial products. With that said, though, guys, it looks like I'm at the end of the newsfeed. We will be back tomorrow, and we have that inflation data this week, so that should provide us a pretty big catalyst. Guys, thank you so much for coming. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. I'll see you the rest of the week, and for now, Mickle out.